Good day to you, and welcome to Fascinating. I'm your host, Rick, from planet Vulcan. My ongoing mission on planet Earth to search for signs of intelligence and to encourage its spread. Contributing editor Autodidact was listening to a popular podcast recently and was struck by a particular statement made by the podcast host. Otto writes, "The host of a podcast I was listening to asserted, displaying no doubt at all about his conclusion that the ego is an illusion, and that we know this to be true. We know this to be true," he goes on to say, "because it has been demonstrated that ego, or the sense of self, can be made to go away, for example by using high doses of psychedelic drugs, or by using certain meditation techniques. So he concludes that if ego can vanish, then it must be illusory. It is not quite clear to me why he thinks it is so important to hang that label on the phenomenon of ego. I suspect, based on other things I've heard this podcast host say, that he is attempting to add weight to his belief that having a sense of self is, if not quite the source of all evil, it is at least to blame for much bad behavior among humans, and that it is something that a right-thinking person ought to try to squelch, to get it out of the way and keep it out of the way on the path to enlightenment and right action. He is not alone in this point of view. In many circles, and practically ever since the term was invented, it has been sufficient to say that someone is an egotist to paint them as a very bad sort of villain. Right action, by the way, is something else that this podcaster has also defined with such absolute confidence that he believes there is no possible way to view right action other than within the framework he has laid out. But slow down, stop, back up. Whatever else you think about the self, it is probably more useful to take the evidence that self can seem to dissolve away, not to mean that ego is illusory, but that it is a mental construct, as a result of brain activity. In truth, it is really there, and not a mere illusion during those times when the process of mental construction is happening, which is most of the time, and for good reason. The fact that you can shut down the construction process with drugs or meditation does not prove anything beyond the observed fact that it is possible to shut down the process that results in the construct, at least temporarily. But instead of rushing to condemn this evolved feature of the human brain, perhaps we could benefit by considering why it evolved. What was the impetus in the selection process during evolutionary development that created this feature of human psychology? I asked my chatbot about the ego from the point of view of evolutionary psychology. That is, what is it about the ego that confers evolutionary advantage? This is how it responded. Number 1, social cohesion and cooperation. As humans evolved in complex social environments, it became essential to have mechanisms for maintaining group cohesion and facilitating cooperation. The ego may have evolved as a regulatory mechanism to balance personal desires with societal norms and rules. By doing so, individuals could coexist in groups, sharing resources and providing mutual protection, thereby enhancing survival and reproductive success. Number 2, identity and social position. Recognizing oneself as a distinct entity, separate from others, is critical in complex social structures. The ego allows individuals to develop a sense of identity and place within a social hierarchy. This identity can be used to form alliances, navigate social relationships, and compete for resources or mates. Number 3, future planning. One of the hallmarks of human cognition is the ability to plan for the future. The ego plays a role in weighing current actions against future consequences. This forward-thinking ability is crucial for survival in changing environments, where delayed gratification or sacrifice might lead to long-term benefits. Number 4, self-regulation and impulse control. The ego helps in self-regulation, allowing humans to control impulses that might be detrimental in the larger social context. For example, aggressive or antisocial behaviors could lead to ostracization, which in ancestral environments could have dire consequences. Number 5, mental simulations. The ego allows individuals to run mental simulations of possible scenarios, evaluating outcomes and guiding decision-making. This can be seen as a form of problem-solving, helping individuals anticipate challenges and devise strategies. The bot said in summary, while these are some proposed evolutionary benefits of the ego, it's essential to recognize that human psychology and its evolution are multifaceted. The current understanding is based on a combination of evolutionary theories, anthropological observations, and psychological research, and our comprehension continues to evolve as more is learned about the human mind and its history. The podcaster in question makes no bones about his lack of trust in nature's legacy in all areas. It seems he believes that during a handful of decades he has been able to achieve an understanding of the complexity of what nature has produced over hundreds of millions of years to a depth that allows him to judge confidently when and how evolution has left us with maladaptive traits. And he knows how to step in and correct all of nature's mistakes. In other words, he is ready to step in and do what God would do if only God were as well informed as he is. Thanks to Thomas Sowell for this turn of phrase. This is the sort of deus ex machina thinking that Friedrich Hayek had in mind when he said that our curious task as economists is to demonstrate to people how little they understand about that which they propose to control. I wish this podcaster, about whom I find so much to admire, could find a way to come down from his lofty perch from which he surveys us all and comes up with his proposals to intervene. He needs to adopt rather than resist evolutionary thinking, as, thankfully, more and more professionals in the field of psychology are starting to do. Thanks to Otto for this essay. We Vulcans are as baffled with the approach to the concept of ego by so many earthlings displayed here, and the tenacity with which such beliefs are held as we are with any other mystery about human thought and behavior. We suspect that it may be habitual behavior connected to times in Earth's history where societies were organized along hierarchical lines with a deity at the apex of the hierarchy. And individuals were expected to know their place and to subordinate themselves to their masters. Thinking and acting for one's own purposes was routinely condemned as insubordination and even punished. We are gratified to observe that it is slowly becoming more and more clear to more and more earthlings that the job the ego does is crucial to the thriving of both the individual and of society. This is not to say that it is wrong to now and then detach from ego as one pursues different modes of consciousness. But you can do that without condemning the ego, which makes about as much sense as the lungs condemning the heart for giving them too much blood to process. You cannot, however, permanently detach from the ego and expect to thrive or even survive. You must let it function in order to live. I invite you to have a listen to the next fascinating podcast and a look at the next video on our YouTube channel, Fascinating at Prego de Nada. If you find the lessons from nature in these podcasts and videos personally valuable, Please recommend it to your friends, give it a like, and subscribe. Theme music, Helium, with thanks to Track Tribe. Live long and prosper. Savor your experiences. Treasure your memories. Anticipate a happy and rewarding future. And respect nature's wisdom.